Me double check. Usually, I see you right away in the chat.
Yeah.
Usually, did you see
I'm,
that?
I'm I'm probably the first one in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Did you see that your episode is killing it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It actually got me.
subscribers,
Uh, so we
fans.
are live.
Yep, we are live. We are live. We're live. It is Friday. Uh, what's up, everybody? This is John from Coding Addict, and welcome to another Web Dev Power Hour live stream. And just like the last time, I'm joined by Alex. How are you, Alex?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm glad to be back. I'm really, really glad to be back. YouTube is really addictive. So after the first episode, I said, I've started my YouTube channel. I haven't posted anything on it, but it's there. I'm definitely I'm
Yes,
definitely coming into this world.
Alex is like, I have the bug. Like,
Yeah.
and for everybody like who has been listening to this live stream, so what's happening with Paul? If you have been following his channel, everyone in his home is sick. As far as I understand, there's like COVID issues. So he had to get the Airbnb and all that. So unfortunately, he wasn't able to show up today. And of course, we're wishing like all the best to him
Of
and
course.
everything. And hopefully next week he's gonna be back and everything is gonna work out. And uh, what else I wanted to say? Yeah, and Alex I was kind of thinking about kind of canceling. I was like, should I do it? Should not? And then I was like, you know what? Let's just power through and let's just see where this thing goes. And Alex was kind enough on a last last like notice to say yes. And Alex's show has been really killing it, the last one, and I've definitely, this is one of those things where if ever I'll get the question about like starting out in web dev and all that, in whether it's courses or YouTube channel, it's definitely something that I'll point to this episode, because what I really liked about last episode, that we kind of, it was really compact of
Yeah.
like your
Yeah.
story.
Touching about everything,
Yeah,
around
you're
everything.
kind
Yeah.
of, you give the whole, like, look, you start here, there, this is where you move, and yeah, so really, really awesome episode. Really, really enjoyed it, and it's been killing in as far as the downloads in podcasts and everything. So yeah, awesome.
I'm glad. I'm glad people find it helpful. I'm really, really happy about that.
How was your week?
Uh,
This week, I guess.
it was full. It was full in a good
Full
way.
plate.
A lot of code. It was a lot of code and a lot of reading code. Like I read a lot of code,
Mm.
other people's code, not my code.
And are you focusing mostly, let's say, right now on a back end side of
Yeah,
things,
yeah,
or?
yeah. I'm a full stack junior full stack
Mm,
developer,
mm,
and I work mostly on the back end at the moment. But you never know, if they need me on the front end, I'll move on the
mm.
front end. So
So a bunch of
I'm
Express stuff, or a little bit different framework.
It's a little bit different. It's a little bit different, but it's JavaScript. At the end of the day, it's
Everything is
JavaScript.
in
So
JS. Oh, okay.
yeah, it doesn't scare me.
That's, and what about
Yeah,
studying? Have you been able to study last week, or it was just like work, work, work,
yeah,
work?
yeah. I That's why I work. That's why I wake up.
Mm,
A lot of hours before
mm.
my
Well,
work
you
starts,
never
because
sleep.
I actually do sleep. I need my body needs like 6 hours of sleep. If I sleep 6 hours, I'm 100. Battery is 100% full. And even if I don't put the alarm clock on, if I go to sleep like let's say 12 p.m., like 12, I wake up at 6. So I usually try to sleep 5 hours, because I don't want to charge myself like 100%, so the battery won't get destroyed. So I try to sleep 5 hours, but that's why I wake up. I wake up around 3 a.m., 3:30. It depends when my son goes to sleep, because if he doesn't want to sleep, then I can go to sleep. So
Yeah, but once you get a kid, like your whole schedule
your
is
life,
around the
yeah,
little
yeah,
person there. Yeah,
yeah, your life changes, like definitely changes 100%. So usually I get from like 3 a.m. to like 7 a.m., because that's when he wakes up, and he has to, we have to prepare him to take him to pre-kindergarten. We take him to
yeah.
pre-kindergarten.
Mm,
So like from 3 a.m. to like 7 a.m., I try to learn. I actually do your node course right now. It's almost finished. I have to do like the last two projects. I'm halfway through The comfy slot. It's the comfy slot API. Yeah, I know. I actually tried to build that project as a full stack before, and I almost did. But things came up, and then I abandoned it, and I came back, and then I tried to build it with Python, and now I'm using Node. I've dropped Python and Django, and I'm focusing on Node 100%. So I'm gonna rebuild it again at a certain point as a full
Mm.
stack thing with Node. So that project is like one of my favorite because it's really really complex and it touches on everything. And like April asked, the eye-catching project, I think that would be eye-catching, but it has front end and back end. It's a little too complex for starting out. And I'm like 2 years in and I haven't really truly finished it ever yet, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, no, that's the cool thing that now when because one of the things that when I was building Node course, at some point I realized that, if you build really big APIs, you can do it with just a postman. And of course, like you see at your work, it's not like every time you have a matching front end. There is, you have a back end and you need to just figure out the logic. But as far as the course, I've definitely noticed, judging especially by the student questions and also my own experience, kind of when you're making it, it makes way more sense when there is that front end that you can at least visually showcase. Hey, listen, this
Yeah,
is how the cookie arrives. This is what you do this and that way and blah blah
yeah,
blah. And so definitely I've kind of made my decision that like moving forward when I'm going to be adding more projects, it's going to be more like, hey, listen, here's the I need to build a matching front end, let's say before that in React, then we can add the project to the node course, and then it's like at least you can showcase this is how it looks, this is how it looks when you get those products, this is how it looks when you set up the admin, because again you can do those things in postman, it definitely works, it's not like you can explain the logic and whatever, but I think that visual like thing where like, yeah,
exactly.
this
Yeah,
is how it looks,
the big
that
picture.
yeah, and then basically that entire project then added to the MERN. So this is that cool thing now with the full stack that I can pretty much build the entire project and then just decide which is going to be added to which like course and then combine together and all that. So I'm really really excited about that coming up. Um,
Yeah, and we're also excited by the NextJS course that's gonna come. I just wanted to add, like, are you gonna add like a full stack project on it? Because from what I've seen, Next is like a full stack thing. You can also build a back end to it, like it has something
the
integrated. But I tried to read the docs on it, and I was like, what is this thing? So that's so maybe you could add like a full stack thing in there. So a section like, here's how you can use the back end from the
So,
Next.js.
to answer your two questions, as far as Next.js, yes, it is coming, but not. I don't have the time frame at the moment because, yeah, I'm just like I'm right now at the, I'm basically updating all the existing courses. I'm making sure that they're up to date. So let's say
Yeah,
right now I'm going through HTML and I need to update. Let's take a video of like how to add Google fonts. So they changed their UI a little bit, and I don't want my course to be like, hey, it was done 6 years ago, and then so I need to check
it's
for those
outdated. Yeah,
videos, and I
yeah.
need to make sure that that is up to date. And like as I'm moving along with this, there's going to be a like pretty big React update, which is also going to take a little bit of time. And as far as Next.js, to answer the question, like I definitely want, there's going to be a course, but more I'm leaning towards where I don't think it's gonna be 15 project course. It's gonna be because the problem with those little like I call them little frameworks because they're built on top of JavaScript. But if you think about it, like JavaScript changes a little bit less because it has every year there comes out just new one little or two little features, right? So
Yeah,
let's say ES whatever it is 2022 or whatever. I mean every
yeah,
year after ES6, right? Then
exactly.
React changes in like 2 3 years, and then the next JSs and Gatsby's, they're kind of they have more iterations, and I don't want those courses like constantly just re-record Next.js course like forever. So where I'm going with this whole speech is that I'm kind of more leaning that there's going to be one big project, and then kind of I'll try to incorporate everything. To answer your question, basically that full stack thing, as far as I've read the docs, because I haven't worked with Next.js at the moment that extensively also, but the way are you familiar with Netlify functions?
I've seen your course on it,
Serverless.
but no,
Yeah.
I haven't dug into it. No.
So the main idea, as far as the like when I read the blog posts and everything, is the fact that it's similar kind of situation where you have these functions that only run on a server, and what happens is like you can, let's say for example, store something that's sensitive there because like whatever is on the front end, whatever kind of key or whatnot is going to be showcased. So you can set up those APIs over there where you're connecting from your front end application, but nobody apart from the server actually is aware that those functions are there. So they're kind of little like mini JS, mini node.js kind of functionality, which you can add,
Hmm.
right? So you can set up a separate route where, let's say, in that route, you're connecting to some kind of external service, and then from the front end, you connect to that function. It's literally like an API call, but the only difference is that like it's stored kind of on a server and everything is done under the hood because like serverless functions in general, they're a little bit of pain. When you're talking about
Yeah, yeah.
AWS, Lambdas, and all that. So what they do, they offer these cool services where like you already are given like a methods to work with, and they're way more familiar to whatever you and me are working with JavaScript. So it's not like
Yeah.
this mumbo jumbo gibberish that that lambdas are. But then under the hood, it's still the same kind of deal, and it's a very cool approach. But you do need to like it's being sold like serverless is being sold like this awesome great thing, but you need to be kind of careful. Like I built my first the course API with the serverless function. So basically it was those JSON objects that I send just for React projects or JavaScript projects.
Yeah.
And like you can run up those numbers so quickly. If you have something that's really busy, if you don't have just one piece of functionality, one little thing or whatever, if you have literally something that's all the time going to be running, you're gonna use those requests that you are given like so quickly. I was the first time when I launched my course API, the server, it was crazy. It was like within like half a month, it used up everything that I was supposed to, and I was like, okay, I need to quickly make an Express server because this is gonna be a
Yeah.
nightmare, and this is exactly what I did eventually. So let's say it's cool but I wouldn't if you're building a e-commerce store. I wouldn't because this is one of the things that you could do. Let's say with Stripe, this is how you connect to Stripe. You have somewhere a backend. That backend connects and gets the secret or whatever the key is called, and then it sends back to the front end. So kind of you don't connect to Stripe directly from the front end. You need to have this middleman because otherwise it's not secure. Like because anybody can do anything. But I personally wouldn't put it like that type of function on my e-commerce because if it's really busy, then I mean you can like it's a nice option if you have something once in a while, but if it's like really running, then I think financially at the end of the
Yeah. It's
day,
gonna kill you. Yeah. Yeah.
it's not as it's not as straightforward as being sold, but it's definitely
Unless you make a lot of money with it, like if it's a really productive,
yeah,
service, and it
yeah.
generates you a lot of income, then
Then
it's
you
worth
can
it.
yeah, but I mean it is definitely a cool feature, but honestly, Gatsby also has this right now. Gatsby, like Next.js, it's so funny. Next.js and Gatsby, it's one of those things where it's like a I wouldn't yeah, no, I would say like it's a copycat thing where you know and not in a like bad way where one framework comes out with something new. I can guarantee you the other ones will
The other
never
one's
pick
gonna
it up because
implement it. Yeah, of
yeah,
course, of course.
they'll do it in their and Gatsby also has this serverless functions now. I mean, and it's a similar gotcha because when it comes to Next.js, I think like it's Vercel. So with as far as I understand with Gatsby, those serverless functions you can only run them on Gatsby Cloud. But I might be mistaken because I haven't tried to running them myself. Like I haven't used like Gatsby for a little bit. I've been dealing with Node pretty much. So not much there. So long story short, 10 minutes later, there's gonna be a Next.js course, but it's
Yes, so
probably not gonna be
it's
30
gonna have a full
projects.
stack project.
Yeah, and with a full stack project. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So as far as
Cool.
we have weekly tips, so I have a pretty, maybe pretty old one. I would even say, when you're setting up a modal, right, on the front end,
Yeah.
as an example, So let's say when you go with position fixed or position absolute, you go with position absolute and then top, bottom, left, right, or whatever, right? So 0, 0, 0, or whatever values, right? So, but if you actually want to shorten this, you can go with inset, and that inset basically similarly to how you would add padding, like you go with padding and then four values, or border, or
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
no, yeah, border similar, and then margin four values. Same with that inset. You go with inset, and then if you set inset 0, that's pretty much the same as top, bottom, left, right, 0. So
Okay.
instead of 4 lines of code, you go with 1 line of code.
One.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
this is really new to me. Also, I saw something about clamp, and I was about to read. Like clamp does like something that media queries does. Like you can set like the values, and then you small. I've saw something about it. I'm gonna read it because I don't know. But as far as my weekly tips, learn to use the debugger. Like I've heard about it before, but I've never looked into it, and now I really 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 um, think that I should have looked into it a long time ago. So I'm looking into it now. But when you get a job, you're gonna need a debugger. You're gonna use it a lot, so you better make sure you know how to use it, or at least what it is. So yeah, that's my weekly tip.
And then, but do you use like, again, you use that on a back end, right? So, or
Yeah, yeah.
have you used it with, let's say, React, or just vanilla
No,
JS?
no, no. Just on the back end. But you when you have like a huge project, and web packs and all that stuff, there's gonna be a lot of things in the console. So you just can't console log like a line of code in whatever which function you need. You probably you'll struggle just to trigger it. In Postman because you have to find it and then see what endpoint it has and then trigger it. But the debugger helps a lot. So I'm learning it. I'm learning to use it now. So it's good, but it's new. So everything new, it takes time to learn. And also another tip would be do open source projects. Like just get an open source project after any project, run it, and try to find a bug in it, because that will get you job ready in a way. Because when you'll start a job project, it's going to be big, and you're going to struggle just to learn where everything is and how the functions work. So it will get you a little bit of experience, working on even if you don't work on it, just try to find the bugs, even if you can fix them. Just you see, because they put on like, here are the bugs. I've downloaded the React open source project last night, and I couldn't even turn it on. I thought, it's too late, I'm going to sleep now. I'm dropping everything now. But I'm gonna go through it again, today, just to turn it on and see if I can find the bugs, and accommodate myself with it a little bit, because it helps. It's an experience. So these are my two tips.
Oh
10 minutes
yeah, for
later.
me, honestly, I've been very much slacking with an open source. I've never really kind of. It is one of those things where just kind of, for me, I looked at it, I'm like, I don't know. Maybe if there would be kind of like made kind of. I know that there's probably some blog posts about it, whatever. But I'm talking about like some maybe like guidelines, where to
Yeah,
start,
yeah. Yeah,
and
they
kind of.
actually have some. They have some, but they only send you to this page, and then there's a link to that page, and you're like 5 pages in, you find something about how to make a pull request. What's the
Hmm.
naming?
Hmm.
You have to
Hmm.
read a lot just to get a little information. So just put everything in one place, and maybe highlight it with big words. This is how name your branches. This is what you need. Like, don't get us working a lot for small information, because I don't I'm not a patient guy. When I need some information, I want it now, and I want it easy, and I want to be there for me just to consume it.
No, but it's
That's what.
definitely true. Like what Alex is like, that's one of the like like major things. Then once you start working, for a company, you'll be working part of a team. So it's you need to be aware of at least like some guidelines of the workflow, how it works, because you're not anymore. There's this like individual who's just like randomly like sets up its own, like his own or her own like GitHub. That's it. You're
Yeah,
working in a part of a team. There are rules. There's, like expectations, how they prefer the work to be done. So it's definitely, and working on I think working on those open source projects is the closest you can come to
yeah,
actually
exactly.
going like you just said, going through those steps, pull requests, branches, how all of that is managed. That's definitely a very good suggestion. And as far as the main theme, so this week we have spending time versus being productive. And this kind of comes from I think I was this week or last week. I saw somewhere somebody talking about that there's a huge difference between not just the time you spend, but also like how you spend the time.
Yeah,
And kind of the main kind of thing is I don't know if you're familiar with Malcolm Gladwell, but he has this idea that if you dedicate yourself, let's say 10,000 hours of doing like doing something, getting better at something, then you're gonna get really good at it eventually. And he brings up
yeah,
the examples of the Beatles and whatever, the Bill Gates, and he wrote that about that in the Outliers book. And my only kind of, I truly believe in that. I really like him as an author, and I truly agree with him on that. But my kind of one thing that I want to add, that there is a difference like how you spend those hours, because I know for myself that
definitely.
unless you do something that is productive, there's a huge difference whether you just sit down, turn on YouTube. Then it's a good thing that, okay, it's better than watching Netflix. Okay, I'll give you
Oh,
that, right? So it's definitely better if you at least going for programming videos instead of whatever comedy and Netflix. But there's a huge difference at the end of the day whether you're building projects, which in my opinion is the most productive way of how to get better at something, right? When you're
yeah,
totally, like I call this like if you're being thrown over the boat, over the ledge or where, and you just need to swim. There's no
yeah.
there's no way back. I need to somehow survive.
Sink
I
or
need
swim, exactly.
sink
Yeah,
or
exactly.
swim, right? And so that for me is, and second, also judging by my personal experience, I'm not, this is not the part where I'm saying, yeah, you should do this or that. And no, it's I'm dealing with the same issues where if I don't, if I right away know that if I'm not following along when I'm watching something, if I'm not actively, engaged typing, if I'm just sitting there and watching, I
It's not
mean,
gonna stick.
it's not those 10,000 hours. It's not gonna stay. I'm gonna forget about it. If you are engaged, if you're watching, if you're actually, typing along, if you're trying something, then it's different. Then it's a whole different ball game. But if you're just kind of, there and not really, then I don't really see the
Yeah.
big difference. What do you think?
My take on it is I think the 10,000 hours represent the 10,000 hours of practicing the skill. So by you watching YouTube videos, you actually don't practice anything. You just watch them, and sometimes me. It happens to me a lot. Like if I'm watching like a tutorial or something on a YouTube, sometimes my mind like leaves me, so I'm just the body looking at a screen, but my mind is not there. So sometimes I have to just go back, like what he was talking about. I didn't even hear it. Like I'm here, I'm looking at it, but I'm thinking of something else that I don't even hear it. Whether when you're coding along, sometimes I actually stop the video and try to do it myself before the video comes up with the solutions. If it's, especially when it's something new, because if it's something I've done before and I'm just doing the tutorial, so a different tutorial just to see a different perspective, I don't get involved that much in like doing it by myself, because I just want to see like the node projects. Like I want to see like how you do it now, because I've done a different node project, and it stuck with me. Like I know I can build an API like from start to scratch right now with middleware and everything. But I want to see how you do it. That's why I bought your course, because and your explanations fit my needs of learning you know perfectly. Like I prefer your courses because the way they are explained. So that's why I'm doing I'm redoing the course, because I'm getting a lot of knowledge. But I'm not trying to like code by myself. I will code by myself, the projects after I finish everything. I'm going to start like full stack projects and do it by myself. And I have the course to go back to. Like if I don't know the syntax, or maybe I forget something, I go back to the course. I always go back to the course. It's not a bad thing to go back to the course. That's why you do the course, and that's why you have it, to go back to it and use it as reference. Because when before I found your JavaScript course, I knew some JavaScript. Like if you would ask me things about JavaScript, I would know them. But if you had me do and build stuff with JavaScript, then that would be a problem for me. So then I found your JavaScript course. I did it, and then I did the projects. And then when I was trying to build them by myself, I knew what I wanted to do, but maybe I didn't remember the syntax. Like, how did John fetch data from this API? Like, were the exact what was the exact syntax? I knew what I had to do, just didn't remember how to do it. So go back to the course, and that's not a bad thing. That's why you have the course, and that's why you're doing the course, to have it as reference. I use them all the time. I still use it still. Like, I go to courses. Actually, I know now, I go to my GitHub, because everything I've done in the courses
Yeah.
is really, yeah,
Yeah.
it's put in on my GitHub. Like, the conf is like, this is it. And
Yeah.
I remember the section when you do something, or the birthday app. I remember how the mapping, or fetching, or whatever. So I always go back to everything, basically. But having experience means doing it over and over and over and over and over and over again, until you won't need to go to the courses, because it's those 10,000 hours. They're like, you've really put in the 10,000 hours, and you remember exactly how it goes. But it takes 10,000 hours. Like, that's like,
Yeah, no, and
how much is that, like 5 years, or I don't
so
know.
I think I was counting when I was reading that. So I was thinking, what we can do 40 hours a week, right? So that's 160 a month. And then you need to multiply that with whatever months. So I'm not, I believe it was like 30 months something, or maybe
Yeah,
even
yeah,
more.
so
So yeah.
it's a lot
So
of time.
yeah, it's not. Again, we're talking about like 5 years or something like that. Again, even that, and that's if you're like genuinely doing those 40 hours a week. I mean, if you have a full time job, imagine that it's not. It takes, first of all, time to get to that web dev position, and then you can start putting
The
in that
hours,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
no, no,
unless
no.
you're crazy and wake up really early. I'm joking.
Yeah, speaking of that, I don't know how, like, for me, I've noticed that it used to be 8 hours, and now I guess when my daughter Karina showed up, then it kind of lowered the bar, where now I noticed that I can do 7. I actually cannot sleep more, but 6, I'm extremely, like, still grumpy, and 5, I'm not even like, don't talk to me. And
Don't talk to me. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and it's not even like, how some people are like, oh, don't talk to me, and then they have coffee and then they're better. For me, it's not like, no, 5 hours, nah. No, I usually, like, I literally, the moment, if I have 5 hours, I'm already right away. The moment I wake up, I'm starting to think when I can take a nap, like when it's gonna be, and then I'm like, okay, I need to do this in this hours before I can do stuff. But yeah, for me,
yeah,
seven is kind of a cutoff. I cannot do more. But it's definitely, like, it's really a good point that you said, where there is also a difference. Yes, as you're, let's say, if this is your first time with JavaScript, it's one thing. But if you're repeating stuff, if you're already comfortable with some of the content, then as you're watching this, you're already just looking for those differences, because you're already
yeah,
familiar with the main thing. And then, yeah, very good point. Like, having those courses, having those references, it's more about, like, having in your head, like, okay, and like you said, even like setting up the GitHub, and like all your projects are there, and just remembering, like, okay, in this project I did that and that filtering. Like, I also, like, I take from my own projects, where I'm like, look, in
yeah,
that project I did the filtering, so let me go back, because I'm not gonna remember line by line, and I don't have to. I can get it in 3 minutes, and then I'm like, the moment I look at the code, and I'm like, okay, this is how it works. Now I remember.
yeah,
Okay, let's put it in there and let's keep working. And then with every project, hopefully the idea is that you learn that one, maybe one, two extra things, and then
yeah,
okay, now I know how to do this, and all that. So for me, it was definitely with Node. I was really excited when I kind of learned how to set up the pagination, because that was, I
yeah.
understood the front end, but then when I saw how easy it is actually on the back end,
You
I was
actually said,
like,
yeah. And Paul made a point in one of the videos saying like if you have to fetch something like an API, but it has like 30,000, uh, usernames or something
Hmm.
coming out, you have to set up like the pagination from the back, and so it won't flood the front end. So it was a good point, and it stuck to me because like, this is right. Like if your database has like 15 million, entries, how are you're gonna destroy the front end? And it's out. So yeah, pagination is really important.
Yeah, and again, it's like so simple there. Like again, you just set up with three line, maybe a little bit more, but like few lines of code, you can set it up where like you specifically send back whatever you want, pretty much whatever is the
Yeah,
limit, whether that's 10 items, 25 items, or whatever. For me, it's more like right now as I'm looking at some different APIs, let's say Pexel API, whatever. I'm just really curious about the naming because naming is one of like, do you say num of pages or amount of pages, like those kind of like little things. But the idea is exactly the same, where they send back how many items per page, how many total items, how many total pages,
yeah.
and what is your page. And like again, this doesn't change. Like if you have API with bunch of data, that's gonna be the standard that they're sending back. It's just it's always interesting for me. Like, oh, okay, so they use this. Okay, I'm gonna use that syntax instead. For me, I think the biggest one that I've used in Node, I, I think it was the Hacker News API or one of the API. I really enjoy them because I like the documentation. They were really straightforward. Now I would need to go back, but yeah. Have you ever used Windows, Alex?
Windows.
Yeah, Windows
Yeah, yeah.
computer.
My here in Romania, we actually get computers when you get hired, like laptops. So my first laptop, my first working laptop had Windows on it. Actually, even in sales, I got a laptop
No,
and
because
a
like
car and everything. So
Tammy is struggling with she has Windows and it's giving her like a really hard time and I
yeah, I hate Windows. And if Bill Gates sees this show, then I mean, I'm sorry, but Apple is my thing. Like I
yeah,
apologize.
yeah.
Just buy a MacBook.
I was actually I was that's one of those things where again I need to say that when we bought the Mac, it was I don't know how many years ago. To be honest, like I remember my wife was still in nursing school and I was in construction, and I was actually against it. I was like, well, why do we need to buy Mac? Because Windows
Yeah,
is 200-300 or whatever dollars, and the Mac thing is like 1,000. And she right away made a point. She's like, look, it's gonna be you'll see that it will be uh a good investment over time. And that's one of those things like look, you can be mad about Apple that they always remove those what's the name like like
yeah, the ports.
ports
Yeah,
ports
yeah, you have to
right.
buy.
Yeah,
Some
yeah, and they expect that everybody's just gonna like it and they will go out and they will buy that and yeah
they actually go out, but we hate it, but we need it. So
yeah, but you need it. And but y- like for example for me I bought this MacBook that I just started coding, I don't know, like 7 years ago. And it's still running as it
yeah,
was,
yeah,
yesterday.
yeah,
No issues, whatever. So if you put everything together, like in how many years, then I definitely like say whatever you want about Mac, but I haven't had any
no,
issues. Everything runs smoothly. I don't have to deal with, all the time running what's the software, the spyware or whatever the software there and all that. So
yeah.
yeah.
I'm a big fan of Apple, and everything I have is Apple. So I actually use, like, from my personal computer, I use a Mac Mini, which
Mm.
is the M1 chip. When it
Yeah,
came out,
yeah, yeah.
like, the laptop was like thousands of dollars, and then the Mac Mini was like $1,000. So it was
Mm.
like, this makes a lot of sense because I already have a lot of monitors, and I have like the biggest monitor there is
Yeah,
out there. It's like, when I was learning to code, I said I need a lot of screens. Like I need, the course, and then I need, where my
yeah,
project
yeah,
is
yeah.
showing, and then you
Mm.
need like a
Mm.
GitHub to look at, what you've put in, and Stack Overflow, and then you have the code. Like I need so many screens, and I actually had like a 13-inch laptop.
Mm.
I don't know how I use that laptop. If you ask me now, like how did I do it? Like the screen is like this big, versus like what I have now, which is like two huge monitors. But uh, it's funny. It's funny when I look back at everything. I sometimes I'm like, how did I do that? How did I do that? Like the, Apple, has been with me from day one. So no Windows for me. No.
Was it
I Yeah. Go ahead.
sorry
Go ahead.
sorry to interrupt. Was it hard for you to set up the let's say those monitors? Because I do have the monitor, but I actually, to honestly, I just connected. Essentially, it's displaying what is on the MacBook, but I haven't like connected to seven different. Was it hard to set up the same laptop on multiple screens or no?
No, you just need a hub. How you call it? Like the one you plug it into your laptop, and then you plug
Mm,
the monitors in, and
mm,
that's it.
mm. And then from that hub, it kind of distributes to whatever,
Yeah,
however
yeah,
you
for
we.
the laptop, because the Mac Mini, has something that you have to plug in the monitors directly in it. Like it has a lot of ports.
Mm,
It's like a computer basically. But I tried using it with a hub when I first bought it, and it didn't work. I found some explanations online, but the main line was it's not working. I didn't care why it was working. No, they said they tried everything, it doesn't work. It's because of Apple or something. So I said, okay, I'm just gonna plug each monitor in. But for
mm,
my working laptop, I have a hub. I plug the hub in the laptop, and then plug the monitors into the hub, and it works perfectly,
mm. Yeah,
and it's a life change.
for me, definitely iMac is being a thing. Like once like I think it's such a like workhorse as far as, one second,
Yeah,
I have a cat situation.
I heard him. Yeah, yeah.
I don't know why she wants to get out, because my little kiddo is still running around there, so she's probably can be very fast back. But
She'll come back.
anyway,
Yeah.
I mean, she can go out there in the wild. And yeah, iMac for me is like the speed, and like that you can do everything
Yeah,
as far
yeah.
as recording. There's no issues, and it's just awesome. Yeah,
And you
I
just turn
couldn't
it
be
on and it
happier.
works. Basically, you
Yeah,
don't have to,
and the
install.
screen is the only thing that I messed up, is that I wasn't I wasn't particularly smart. I wasn't updating the, when the updates
Yeah,
come
they
out
have
for
the
the
yeah,
systems. I
yeah,
skipped one, and then it just totally crashed. So I had to bring it in, and they wiped it all out and whatever, send it back to normal, and then install it. But that was my fault. It wasn't Apple. I just thought, well, I'm just gonna skip those updates. They're annoying, and yeah, sure enough, next thing I know,
yeah.
that
They're necessary. Yeah, they bring a lot of cool stuff. But when the first update comes, they actually still working on it. So they throw it out there. People complain. Here are some bugs that you missed, and then they rebuild. So like the second version is actually the one to update, because
mm,
I don't know what they have, like Monterey or something, and
mm,
I did
mm,
that. And I have an app that's splitting my screen, and
mm,
that stopped working, and it like, destroyed me. Like I need to split my screen exactly in three parts. If it's not three parts, it gets on my nerves. And like I actually wrote to them like, hey man, your app is not working. What's happening? It was actually the update,
mm,
coming to
mm.
find out. But they worked on it, and now everything is perfect.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that was yeah. I feel Tammy's pain when she was writing me. She's like, "Look, my
yeah.
Windows is driving me insane. I couldn't even like it's hard. I cannot imagine like dealing
I
with
hate
that thing.
Windows, with their apps and everything. It's
Yeah,
most
it's
of working laptops with Windows have that one with the apps, and every time I see it, I was like, a part of me dies inside. Like I have to use it now.
but for you
But
when sorry, but
yeah,
for you when they gave you the work laptop, that was right away Mac too, right?
I'm not
No.
sure I can share this
Oh, okay,
information,
okay.
but
No, never
it
mind.
was it wasn't Windows. I can tell you that,
Okay.
and
I
and I was
know.
happy. I was really happy when I got, like
Yeah, yeah, no, 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 because that's pretty typical. Like everybody that I know, who the company who, for everyone who knows who got the like computer, they got the MacBook. That's not, I think it's pretty.
Happy computer, happy life. Let me say
Yeah.
that.
I don't think there's that many questions. Usually, you would have answered all of them here anyway.
Yeah, yeah. I actually I have the channel. My eye is going like I see some. It's like, no, I can start typing now, but let me see, because I saw Jake ask something about if you are going for a React job, do you need to know back end? And the answer is basically no. Even though if you read on, if you go on LinkedIn, they want you to know everything, and also have a unicorn if you can, like you need React, you need Node, you need Java, you need Python. No, if you're going for a React job, basically you have to know to consume an API, because the data you're going to put on your website usually comes from an API. But it's good to know a lot. Like I learned a lot just by being curious. Like when I started to learn backend with Python and Django, I always just wanted to build my own API so I can build better front end projects. And plus, I needed something new, something different to keep me going. And I picked up Python and Django like 3 months. I dedicated myself 100%, like Python, Django. Python it's not that difficult to pick up. I was actually considering Java before going for Python, because I looked on LinkedIn, and there were millions of Java jobs. But then I found out that someone I knew was working with Python. I said, okay, maybe he could point me out if I needed some. But now I work with Node. So also want to point out that once you learn a programming language, like truly learn it, like you know your way around it, it's gonna be easy to learn a new one. It's basically the same thing written differently. So it's not gonna be difficult once you learn JavaScript to move to Python or Django, Python or Java, or if needed, because some jobs they'll bring you into to work with JavaScript, and then they'll have you learn like C plus or C sharp, or Java or something, because they want you to build you know something new. And that's actually a good thing. That's actually a good thing. But yeah, just to
So
answer your question, no, you don't have to know backend.
in my experience, like what I'm and also what I'm hearing, let's say all the people that I try to talk to on LinkedIn, as far as what stack they're using, and I'm not going to random people talk. I'm just saying the ones who want to initiate the connection. That I usually go like, "Hey, what stack do you use at work?" Not just randomly send people emails like that. So, and usually what's interesting, what I'm getting back is that React is, yes, the most popular front end. That's pretty much, if I have asked 10 people, then 10 people have said they're working with React as far as front end. Now, backend, I can tell you every person has a different answer. One says, "Oh, we're
Yeah,
actually using Java," and the other one is like you're saying, Django, and like that. There is no like, "Hey, React and Node." Yeah, when you're
yeah,
working, yeah, when learning, it's a very good option, right? When you can set up the Express and everything is nice and cute and awesome, but it's not the reality in in production environment. Yes, React is one thing, but as far as the backend, that could be many variations. So I mean, if somebody expects you to know like React and Java, that's kind of like, well, I mean, how am I supposed to know that I, need to know those two
yeah,
languages? So
exactly, yeah,
for me, the biggest thing that I have to say though, when I started more working with the backend, it definitely made me better front end developer as far as HTTP
exactly, yeah.
calls, because then you have the actual understanding what is happening on that other side, right? Because
The
before
bigger
that,
picture.
the post request was like, okay, yeah, it's there, but it's there. Okay, I know how to send it, but and now you're clearly okay. This is why we set it up this way. This is why the
Yeah,
structure is there. That's why we set up the content type, because on the back end we're looking for it. That's how we use the query parameters. That's how we set them up, and all of those things. That's why I know that there's quite a bit of kind of I don't know how to properly express, but where people say, well, there's no. Some people say, well, there's
yeah,
no real like full stack developer because you don't really, you're just dabbing into everything and whatnot. But my kind of response is always, but it makes you better when you start understanding not just from that one side, but you actually at least have a general idea how that stuff works, and then you can progress
yeah,
slowly and get better and better and better. Of course, always like when you're talking about full stack, like each person is going to be like better at something, right? So let's say some
yeah,
person is
yeah,
really
yeah.
good at backend. Maybe they learn the backend first, and then they're still learning front end. Of course, they're going to be
Yeah.
doing better at
And on backend. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but maybe somebody's starting with the front end, and then they move on to the back end. So yes, their CSS maybe is better, but they're still learning, and I think that really makes you kind of better developer overall. Even if you don't end up, just using that back, at least you have better understanding when you have to structure that front end application, because you'll have like even understanding that, hey, look, from the backend they could send me pages, so I can actually set up the pagination that way. I don't have to always do it myself if
Exactly. Yeah.
if I have that option and all that. So um, that's that. And actually, Jake also left a comment that he's using Linux, which is, I'm really curious about that, because Linux for me is always like that's a hacker. If I hear that, I'm
Same.
like, that's a hacker, because I kind of like, if you can deal with Linux,
I
no.
have no experience, nothing. I actually wanted to do a course on, hacking, like white hat hacking, and I installed like Kali Linux on my computer, but that's what I just did, just install it and never did anything with it. But it's good to have experience. If you don't try everything, then you don't know what you like, what you truly like, because you haven't tried everything.
Mhm.
So I don't see myself trying Linux because I'm big on Macs, but I never say no to anything. So
Yeah, no.
whatever gets you where you need to go. If it's Linux or it's Mac or it's Windows. For me, Windows, it's. I don't like it. I don't like it because you have to do a lot of extra stuff. Where into Macs, you just press the button and it works. And
And
I
it
know
works.
I might sound lazy saying that because he doesn't want to do anything. But yeah, I prefer not to.
Yeah, but
If I can.
it's the same. Like I prefer coding. I don't want to start like when I was actually, so when I was going for software development in the university or whatever. There's a bunch of IT stuff. I hated IT. I
Yeah.
could like I'm not like I could care less. Yes, get me the local and I'm fine. Like I don't want to remember all, like, because it's a lot of it was remembering stuff, and there was not that much logic. I mean, okay, somebody from IT is going to be screaming at me right now, but anyway, I
Yeah.
enjoyed coding more. Okay, let's put it this way. And there's a bunch of IT people who are like, "Oh, I hate coding." You sit there in front of
Yeah.
the computer. I wanna go and talk to people, and I'm like, look, different different shades for different whatever,
Yeah.
basically preference. My preference is coding. I don't want to deal
Yeah.
with too much IT. I want my computer
Exactly.
working, and then I just want to set up the
Exactly,
program. But
just pressing the button.
yep.
But do you get a lot of stuff like people getting you to fix, things around like computers and stuff just because you're a programmer? Like, hey, you don't know to install Windows because you work in IT. I
uh
get out of like a lot fixing
yeah.
phones and laptops and stuff. Like, bro, this is not my field of work. I just write code.
No, for me it's the apps. For me it's like I get people like, oh, I have this app idea, and I'm
Oh,
I'm trying
that's a
not to
thing.
be. But remember, I sent you a quote pretty much a few days ago when I said
Yeah,
when we
yeah, yeah.
talked
I love
about
that.
that what's the name, that talent is a table salt, like not worth a salt, whatever. So similarly, I read something similar about apps, right? That a- ideas for app are like, if people think that, oh, I have this awesome idea, it's the work that you need to put up with. Like, with all due respect, everyone has an idea for app, and
Yeah, yeah,
trust me,
exactly.
and
Even
and,
I have ideas.
this is not like, if you have an idea for that app, trust me, there's 10 other people who have it, and this is not, you don't need to be offended by that, right? It's really hard to come up with something unique. Definitely there's
Yeah,
somebody already out there like killing it. So 90%, even 95% is making that, right? Making that application from your idea, whatever.
idea.
And
Yeah,
but
exactly.
they're like, oh, can you whip this up, basically? And I'm like, no, I cannot. And then they're really upset, and usually it kind of, I can sense that they're like, man, he's not a real programmer. He
Yeah.
cannot he cannot make me in 2 days the application that I just thought about. And I always like how people are just throwing those features like, yeah, and this should be doing this, and this should be doing that, and I'm like, yeah, you don't understand how long it
Yeah.
actually takes that thing working. It's funny, like
Even
when,
just to plan it, how
yeah,
long it takes to plan have
how
everything.
many
Yeah.
people and how many, like, to set up everything. That's why, and, like, every application. It's funny, like when we, for example, talk to Paul, and he's like, look, there's like what's the name, when you have more features coming in, that scope creep. It's more
Yeah.
and more stuff, and you need to add that. And just like, for people, they're like, oh, just add that, and then it's gonna, like, then it's gonna be
Just like a
exactly like
line,
how we
Just
Yeah.
install something. Is there? No,
So
no.
for me, that's why I'm not I'm always say yeah that I'm a developer, but I always see this coming this like this. Oh, so you're a developer. So let me. I'm like yeah no I'm very busy. I'm very busy. Yeah, so that's what I have. Alex has another one. Another guy. I'm sorry, Jake has another one. Alex,
Yeah, I saw that.
are you
I actually
expected?
answered.
Ah, I didn't see that.
I couldn't help myself. I couldn't help myself.
Oh
You're
yeah, because
expected to
you
know it.
already
Yeah.
because I put it on the screen and I'm
Yeah.
showing hiding the chat and everything. So let me see. What was your answer? Yes, no.
All the requests. You're supposed to know all the requests. Yeah, you have to put no post sends data from the API. Gets data from the API. So you need to know them. That's how you work with an API. You send data and you get data.
Mm,
So
mm.
basically, you try to learn as much as possible about CRUD operations because you're going to be using them a lot.
But what would you
In-
suggest? Let's say for a person that I mean, it's easy to say, okay, well, they should set up the Express server. But let's say for somebody, if you're just starting out, like, and you're starting to make those requests, in your experience, what was the best resource to kind of dab into that, where you not only get requests, but you're also, let's say, sending data?
well, all my I basically took everything from courses. Like
Mm,
that's and building. Some courses are from the front end, and you'll make like post requests, and then you'll get requests, and then you also make get you go to the back end. You actually create stuff, and you use different CRUD operations. But uh,
But
I
did
don't
you
know.
use like headless CMSs or something like Paul always? Well, Paul would answer this strappy, but that's why I
No.
wanted to ask a different person. Like, so what was your kind of? Was it like what's the name? JSON placeholder or whatever that one is, where you can practice the. Did you
No.
use something like that, or it was just
No.
no?
It was just Node and React,
So
basically.
okay, so you set up the Node project to kind of as your backend server.
Yeah, when I got into Node, and that's actually when I got into Django and Python, I started building my APIs, and then I would as a project I would start building the APIs. They weren't really complex APIs; they were just basically storing some pictures, names, and some prices from for some e-commerce stores, and then you
Mm,
just go to the back and then consume the API. Later, then I would start to make post requests like, okay, I want to create a user, I want to create a product, like say I've mentioned in the last in the last episode that I've rebuilt the birthday app
mm,
as a full stack thing. So I made a sign in. So you make a post request to create a user,
mm,
then you make an event like whose birthday is coming up. So I've made a form, and then you put in like an image and the name, and where the party is at, and the date. And that's also another post request to a different it's the same database, but a different entry with that, and then store it in the database, and then consume it, making a get request to get all that thing back to the front end, so you can see it, so the user can actually see it. So that was basically my whole setup. Like I didn't use just Node and React. That's that in my image. That's how it works. I
mm,
didn't see
mm,
it any other way. But if there's a different way, don't be shy. Use anything that works for you and works.
mm.
So to say.
So my plan is to eventually, once I re-record the uh, React course,
React.
then basically I'll set up a something similar to what I have already, course API. So, but it's going to be probably a different site. But my goal is to kind of set up more APIs over there. One of them would be where you can actually log in and then you get back the token and then you create with that
Yeah.
token.
Yeah.
So then you can practice in all of them because I want to add basically more options for the APIs. So from the React, most likely for sure. Maybe vanilla JS course as well, but we'll see. But mostly like React course where um, so people can practice post,
Yeah.
put,
Yeah.
patch, delete, and all that. So
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
so they get like a clear. kind of idea how that would
How
work as far as the server and everything. Because, like we talked already before with Paul, like with look, if you're like everybody is dissing on CRUD, but if you understand the CRUD, you're in good like you're. It's a
yeah, in a
very
good
very
place.
good starting point. Again, it's probably not something that you want to add in your portfolio, but it like
You can bring it up in the interview, like, look, I have an idea on how this works, and you start, you hide about behind, like, saying I have an idea, and then you throw everything, because they say, okay, he actually has a good idea on how
mhm,
everything works.
yeah. I mean, because
But
like for all the people who are dissing on a CRUD, show me another way how to learn all the like functionality that is basically a building block to any application. How
yeah,
to create, read, delete, and whatever update. I mean, those are like the building blocks. However you want to look at them, whatever. Is it annoying that there's like 20,000 tutorials in that? Maybe, but for every new technology, I think it's the best way to start. At least in my opinion, I always go through the little CRUD one and make sure that I
yeah.
understand that, and then you can build on that. And we have a one spicy one, Alex. We have John. What are your thoughts of Dino going to overtake Node? This
I
is
actually believed that when I saw it. Like when I saw, Ryan Dahl is, he dropped Node and he's working on a project. Like Dino is the next best thing. I was learning Node because the way it worked, I started with Node, then I switched to Python and Django because I found out that someone I know. So I did the course. I didn't, put a lot of time in it. But while I was learning Node, I was like half through the course, and then this comes up. Like, what is this stuff? Like, I'm just learning it, and now something comes out. But it's not gonna happen because Node is already, made his way like on the market. It's that big that it can't just go away. Imagine this, big companies are using it, like in a lot of places, so they just can't afford to build, hire a new team just to restructure everything, because it doesn't make sense, money wise and, business wise. If Node would stop being updated, and, the Node will just stop evolving, then yeah, probably Dino will, take its place. But while Node is constantly growing, it's not gonna. They're just gonna be two separate things. People are gonna use Dino, probably the other ones are gonna use Node, like with, Node in Java and Python and, Django. Same thing with Dino, just a new player on the market, but it's not gonna take over the world
yeah,
the way I see it.
that was one of those things when it just came out. It was endless YouTube videos about how Node is dead and Node is no one cares about Node and no, I'm like, and you already know the cycle. And I liked Brad Traversy like 1 month or maybe 2 3 months
Yeah,
later.
I
He's
saw.
like
I
he's
saw.
like, so where are all those people that said that Node is dead? Like, where you at? Like, what's happening? Because it's just to get the clickbait. And again, I'm not saying it's a bad product, but I just don't like this
No,
approach where the moment something shows up, then that's it. Everything that you know before is bad and whatever,
dying. Yeah,
you
it's
know.
going
And
away.
I also saw like a very good tweet a few days ago where uh like when it comes to software development, like competition is a good thing, right? So when we're talking
Yeah,
about, let's say that there's now, right, the remix is the new like framework that, and it's actually pushing Next.js to be better. They kind of just be like, oh yeah, we're good and whatever. And it's the same thing with Dino is pushing Node, and then I can give you more and more and more examples where competition is not a bad thing, but you don't need to approach it always like, oh, this is great, this is
it's gonna
bad,
die.
this is gonna
Yeah,
die. Then it like, look, there's like, we also have talked about this already here, where there's so many great apps built on technologies that are not the most hip and whatever, and it's still the apps work amazing, and there's teams behind it who are working and getting paid. So this talk of this dead, that dead, and I don't know. I just
it's actually a lot of videos. I've stopped. Like, I used to consume a lot of YouTube, coming up, and it gets you worried. Like, is TypeScript taking over JavaScript? Is, PHP dying in 2020, 2021, 2022? Nothing's dying and nothing's taking over anything. And like you just said with the competition, having a competitor makes your product actually going for better. because if you don't follow the competition, you're obviously gonna be overpassed. So Node having a competitor like Dino is gonna push Node to be better.
mm,
JavaScript having TypeScript is gonna push JavaScript to be better,
mm,
and that's how life works. Actually, even with clothes and everything, everyone's watching out for everything just to get their game better, because there's gonna be good ideas are coming from uh, every side of the fence. So if Dino has a good idea, like you said, Java Node's gonna implement something. It's gonna take that idea and turn it around in their way and implement it, and that's actually creativity for everyone. Like, we all benefit from that, even us and them. They make a better product for us. We have a better product from them. So that's how life works, basically.
mm, mm. Like for me though, the only thing is you. I th- I think also that was something that I saw in a tweet. But this is, I mean, it's not even a. It doesn't need to be tweet or whatever. The plan is that the one of the I think the one of the biggest skills as far as where the web dev is right now, it's not the lack of information. It's about how you control the information, all the information that's out there. And what I really liked, some time ago, I listened to Indie Hackers podcast, and I liked the Cortland Allen, the creator. I liked his approach where he said, "Look, because he's being asked all the time, like, hey, can I get this feature on your application, whatever." And what he says, like, look, the way he approaches things is, I have an idea, I write down, I put that on a shelf, and then if in those 2 3 months I still think, yeah, like this is something that I need, then I start moving. So this is the same thing as far as the new technologies, right?
Yeah,
Write that down, right? Whatever it is, because the chances of you learning every backend that's out there, very slim. But
yeah,
if you, let's say, see that which is the most popular, okay, so this is the one that I use, this is that I need to go with, right? If you see that, okay, there's this, new whatever stuff out there, if in those 3 months or whatever time you still see that that is like viable thing you need to do, yeah, go for it. But if not, then it's going to be one of those things where you'll thank yourself that you did not waste the time, because I think it's right now it's the opposite, where you can actually dive into so many things and waste so much time
yeah,
that sticking to those even boring things, you can call them boring, however you want to call them, is going to be way more like beneficial in the long run than just, okay, I'll do this framework today and then tomorrow I'm going to do something else. And at the end of the day, you're like, okay, so I learned these
you
things,
won't know
but
anything at the end of
yeah.
the day.
And my kind of problem always where I come back to as far as something new, if you really start looking into it, and again, I'm not saying all the things, it's just something that um, quite often I see is that, well, what can you really build with that thing? And then it starts, well, I mean,
Exactly,
you can make a
exactly.
blog. No, okay, I can make a blog with tons of different technologies. What else can you make? Oh, okay, you can make a portfolio. Okay, I can also make that one with. So you also need to distinguish what is going to make you allow you to build something complex and what is just really cool, fancy, whatnot, and shiny. That doesn't really, like, at the end of the day, deliver that much like value to you and everything. So
Exactly, exactly, exactly. You're 100% right.
did you notice any other cool questions?
Let's see. I think I saw something. How many of us had our breakfast already? I haven't.
Well,
It's a funny story. With every time I wake up, and I watch live stream, I would love a cup of coffee, but my coffee machine will wake you up from the dead because it's really, really
oh, it's
noisy.
loud.
Yeah, and it's like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. I go, oh, I would love for a cup of coffee right now, but it's with beans, so it has to smash the beans. It's like,
Oh, oh, so
yeah,
you're totally like, you're like, for me,
yeah,
I
yeah,
used to have espresso machine, but it
yeah.
died on me. So you know what I bought to try it out? It's kind of this, well, I'm assuming it's Italian because company is Italian and it looks like it's original, but it's like a big pot. In the
Yeah,
bottom you put the water, then you have a filter, a coffee filter in the middle, and then on the
Mhm.
top you just screw on the top, and it kind of, when it boils, it goes through that. So I've been testing for the
Nice.
last 2 weeks how it works now. As far as sound, it doesn't make any sound, but I've been testing how it, like, because I used to like my espressos. I mean, just jam as much coffee as you can
Yeah.
possibly there, and just, just get the. I'm I do add milk, but not. I don't like use the machine for that. I just like to add my milk the
Yeah,
way it
yeah,
is
I
and
pour it
whatever.
myself. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
but
Yeah.
I don't have the. I know my best friend. He's a big coffee drinker, so he has the also the beans where you like everything is just fresh, 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 fresh. So you're definitely there.
Yeah.
Um,
I saw something like any advice for new software developers. I just landed my first job and I'm getting major imposter syndrome trying to go through the tech stack. I get imposter syndrome every day. Like especially
I think
when
everyone does.
yeah, when
Yeah,
something goes, it doesn't go my way. That self-doubt is there like 100%. I think everyone gets it. Like even if you have like CS background and you've been programming for 100 years, if you go to something new, because to me now everything is new. Even though I've worked with Node before, I've worked with React before, you know, building new things is new because they're new things to you. So imposter syndrome is going to be there 100%. And I now, the thing about mental, because this is a mental health thing, staying in control of your mind is knowing what she's coming up with. Like when imposter syndrome comes up, it's imposter syndrome. Like start wondering, am I supposed to be here? Am I gonna do it? Am I good enough? And then when I start thinking that, I'm thinking, okay, this is the dark side coming in. Like, get out. I'm gonna do it. And then you have to go back to whatever it is you're doing. Like for me, I look into the problem more because that comes in. Imposter syndrome hits me when I get either stuck or I don't know to do something. And figuring it out means dissecting the problem into smaller pieces. Like if you don't know how to build something, then you have to try to break it down into smaller, like you have a big problem, try to break it down into smaller problems. That's where you start resolving it piece by piece by piece. So that's how it works for me. That's how I battle imposter syndrome. Like I say, okay, I know what it is. Like I know when it hits me, and then I know how to deal with the situation. Like if I have a problem, I try to break it down into smaller pieces and then try to fixing it one by one by one by one by one. And if that doesn't work, then I know that I can ask for help. Like best part about being hired and getting a job is being part of a team. And I think that's in life in general. Being part of the team and be contributing and helping and being helped is one of the greatest things. Like no one did anything by itself, like alone. Even fighters,
yeah.
they fight on fight night, but they have a team behind them to train them, to watch out for their food, watch out for their sleep, watch out for their body. No one did anything great by itself. Best thing you can do in life and in general is be part of something like a team, and having great people around you. So if you're in a space where you cannot ask questions, and I've been there in my life more than once. Like I had bosses that would make me feel stupid for asking questions. And I remember there were two types. There was one who was avoiding the question because he didn't know the answer, because I could figure out that he didn't know the answer. And then there was the other one who knew the answer, but every time I asked, she was like, "Are you seriously going to ask me that? Are you seriously going to ask me that?" Like, yeah, I'm asking because if I don't know, then I can fix whatever you're having me to do. So if you're in that space where you can ask questions, then you're in the wrong space and in the wrong place. So imposter syndrome is just your self doubts. Basically, you're doubting yourself. That's how I feel about it, because I still get it. I still but now I laugh at it. Like I'm in that I have that mental strength to recognize when it's coming, and then I immediately figure out, like, no, it's not today. Go away. It's not happening. And there's Stack Overflow. If you don't have a team, you just go on Stack Overflow and open it, and people will help you. Programmers love to help, by the way, from what I'm sensing. Everyone, especially if you have a difficult question, it's like their ego inside wants to answer it. Even me, I like it, but if it hurts when I don't know, but I would like to, research just to give you the
Hmm.
answer, because I want to help. I always want to help if I can, and two, I just want to beat that question up. Like, yeah, I did it. Yeah, it gets you in a good space. So that's my take on imposter syndrome.
So for me, like, there's 3 points, I guess, that I want to add. First, it comes like it's always there. It's always on a background, but
Yeah,
the way I see it, it always gets the worst when you start comparing yourself to other people. When you start,
of
oh, I'm
course.
not like this, and he's so this, and I'm not like, it's awesome. Like, it's great when somebody else is killing it. It's awesome, but you don't need you always compare yourself to what you were yesterday, what you were this morning,
Exactly.
like things you
Exactly.
learn, and this is your path. This is, when you started, and there's no, like, if you're happy with where you're going, then don't let this always comparing yourself to the other person be like, oh yeah, I'm not as good, and blah, blah, blah. But there's always going to be, like, you're always going to be in these two
Someone
states,
better. Yeah, exactly.
and you always will be in those two states where in one day you're like, oh, I'm so good, I
Yeah,
learned
yeah,
how to do this, and then next day I'm like, I don't know this simple thing. I didn't, like,
yeah.
I don't know how to do that. And similarly, like you said, look, no one does it on their own. And it's also like, look, no one, like, is born, like, with all of this
Knowing.
awesome knowledge right away. The, like, quote that I also like, always, and this is kind of that I could even, like, if I would be putting quotes, I would probably put it in my home somewhere, where the only difference between the expert and you is the fact that expert has hit that bug 100 times, and that is, I can attest to that 100% because, like, when in a course if somebody asked the question, the reason why I can answer that question, because when I was building that application I got the same bug. That's it. That's the only difference, right? So that, because
Exactly.
I built a project, so I hit that bug, and it's like, I'm like, oh yeah, it's because of that, and it's because I struggled for those 3 hours. It doesn't
Exactly.
see that doesn't make me like smart or whatever. It's just I was in that situation. I went through it, and similarly how other person who's dealing with some, I don't know, back end CSS whatever, they daily, like, conquer the things that I first time see, and then they're like, yep, yeah, this is how it works. So that kind of, to me, and also what I like that you said is like, look, if they, when you ask a question and they treat you bad, you probably don't want to be there. You,
Yeah,
I know,
exactly.
it's like everybody needs to make money and to put food on a table and whatever. I get that, but look, if they're treating you bad just because you are asking questions of, like, where every normal company that I know of, like all the friends that I know that work for normal companies, good companies, where they want to stay and whatever, they have a support system, like you said.
Yeah.
Look, I can go there, I can ask them. Everybody understands that this is just, part of the process and all that. So we're 1 minute 13 in. We'll have to basically end here. It was awesome conversation with Alex. It's always great to talk to him. And
Great to
again,
be here.
thank you for coming on such a short notice, and thank you everything that you do behind the scenes and answer that you would be at the moment. Right now, Alex would be answering all of those questions
Yeah, I saw some,
in
and I
the
was I,
chat.
I really wanted to reach for the keyboard, like.
he's killing it here as far as the answering all the questions. So yeah, it's awesome to see him here. He's definitely going to be here way more often because we are going to be very interesting to hear more about, what is your current journey, like what's happening at work, like what, not company specific things, but
Yeah, yeah,
your
yeah,
growth
yeah. My
specific.
evolution. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly
yeah.
that, and all that. So any last thoughts?
Well, like what Paul would ended like strappy, 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 strappy.
Paul is gonna
I
like this
haven't
one.
looked into it, but I wanted to shout it out because we missed him. So strappy,
Yeah,
strappy, strappy.
Yeah, and we're wishing Paul all the
Yeah.
best, and he's hopefully he's gonna be back next week and everything. So yeah, thank you everyone for watching, for listening, for supporting, for making your time every day. There's 20,000 other things that you can do. So we really appreciate the fact that you actually chose to spend time with us. Thank you very much, and I'll see
Thank
you
you.
next time. Thank you, Alex. Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.